Go ahead and introduce. Let me go ahead and introduce Alicia Gregory here to you all. Um, Alicia is the manager of Unified Schools, Northwest Region of Special Olympics, Washington, and will be presenting today on the Indigenous and inclusion opportunities for pre-K to third grade.
Great,
Alicia?
great. Thank you so much, Cassie. Just like Cassie said, I'm Alicia Gregory from Special Olympics Washington, manager of Southwest Region. There is a typo somewhere on our materials. But today is actually my last day at Special Olympics, so I have forwarding information for anyone who's interested in contacting Special Olympics. I'll give that to you on our last slide. So today's been a real pivotal day for me, so thanks everyone for being flexible. All right, is everything good with the screen?
We can see all your notes too.
With the
That.
presenter mode, okay.
Mhm.
How's that?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, great. So as Cassie introduced, I'll be sharing some opportunities that Special Olympics Washington provides for American Indian and Alaska Native young athletes implementation. Just to go over kind of what we'll be covering today, an overview of Special Olympics, and then what is Special Olympics Young Athletes, kind of go into a brief overview of Unified Champion Schools, and then touch base on the work that we've been working with Nisqually Head Start and Early Head Start with our Young Athletes program, and then some information on how to get started. So my co-presenter here, Mona Gomez Cabrera, she is Family Services Supervisor at Nisqually Head Start, and she's open to having you reach out to her as well. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and reach out to her, and then myself, Alicia. So diving into Special Olympics. So a lot of people hear Special Olympics and we know of community offerings, so local offerings of sports in the community, our state and regional competitions. We do have 3 state games that happen yearly across the state in um, Tri-Cities, and Wenatchee. And that with this program, we offer year-round opportunities. So a lot of people know of like, oh, my cousin's on the bowling team or basketball team. So we have just sports across the state that are offering in both unified and just Special Olympics athletes. And for this presentation, when I'm using the word athlete, I'm referring to individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities. So in order to participate in Special Olympics as an athlete, you do need to have a intellectual or developmental disability. Within our unified program, we also have partners, and those are neurotypical developing students or people. And then to kind of dive into what you may not know about Special Olympics Washington is that we do provide experiences within schools, so within unified sports teams or clubs. And this is just kind of a pipeline for students with and without disabilities to experience sports and activities and leadership opportunities across their lifetime. So it's a strategy that's used in classrooms as young as age 2 all the way through college. That really works on building up that inclusion for students with and without IDD, and letting students without IDD be able to see that students with IDD can be seen as leaders and do have skills beyond that some people assume. So I touched on this, it's a strategy for pre-K through college, and we do this through 3 interconnected components. So we have whole school engagement, Special Olympics, unified sports, and inclusive youth leadership. And so, with those three components implemented within a school system, you really begin to see inclusion happening outside of the specific sports. And so when we're saying inclusion, what we're meaning is, intentionally bringing people together. It's both a practice and a mindset, and that we're celebrating differences and diversity within our students, and valuing and welcoming all students as equal members and contributors to the school, and that we're extending equity, dignity, empathy, and opportunities to all. And within those three components that I listed earlier, we really want to support that social inclusion for students so that it's happening outside of the school building, that students with and without intellectual disabilities are forming meaningful friendships that can last lifetimes or last a lifetime, and really building up the relationship between students. And to get started on young athletes, so young athletes is a component of the unified sports component. So this is a free sport and play program for children with and without intellectual disabilities, ages 2 to 7. It introduces those foundational sports skills like running, kicking, throwing, balancing, walking. There's 8 different units within our young athletes program. And it really offers families, teachers, and caregivers a chance to share the joy of sports and that inclusion with all children. Um, and we know that children of all abilities take part and they all benefit. So it's not just for children of intellectual or developmental disabilities, that oftentimes neurotypical children are those that are, kind of benefiting the most, interacting with other children that might be different than them. And then some of the goals of young athletes is supporting social inclusion and inclusive communities within homes, schools, and the community. And it's really letting those children play together and learn from each other, and then providing children with activities and games that meet their skill level. And then, so kind of why I went through the Unified Champion Schools and Young Athletes is that we have started in 2018. We started a partnership with the National Association of, I forget the name of it, National Association of Head Start, and through that partnership, we Special Olympics and the National Head Start decided to indigenize our curriculum for tribal communities across the United States. Um, and so that's kind of why I gave you the background on what Young Athletes is. And this is just a short video on kind of the adaptations and modifications that can be made within this program for children of all abilities. So I'm hoping those sound. All of their arms and hands. Can we hear? Using beach balls or switch.
Special Olympics Young Athletes has always been inclusive. It provides opportunities for children with different challenges to participate in play, to grow, and to learn through physical activity. The Special Olympics Young Athletes Inclusive Adaptation Flashcards expands the idea of inclusiveness. So it allows children who have multiple challenges, maybe even severe challenges, find ways to reach their own potential and to engage and play in their own individual way to be able to accomplish their goals. Over time, we've discovered individuals need a lot more instruction on how to adapt young athletes to individuals who may utilize a wheelchair, have a device, vision or hearing issues. So those resources are meant to bring everybody together in young athletes. This resource that we have created is a set of flashcards that highlights adaptations for kids. And we hope we've hit as many as we can so that it's really useful to our coaches and educators. Foundational skills activities are designed to help all young children develop awareness of themselves and their surroundings. These basic exercises promote crucial physical abilities like strength, flexibility, balance, and coordination. They also nurture essential cognitive and social skills that lay the groundwork for growth. While the activities might present different challenges for each child's capabilities, the objectives remain the same: developing motor skills, self-confidence, and connections with others through play. The young athlete's experience includes activities that promote and challenge fundamental locomotor skills like walking and running. Whether they need an assistive device like a walker, brace, or cane, or relies on tackling a wheelchair, young athletes ensures every child with fundamental locomotor skills at their own pace. With creative adaptations, these activities can nurture children's spatial awareness and confidence in exploring their environment, regardless of their physical or intellectual challenges. Good balance is critical for many activities we often take for granted. Leaping and jumping require strength and power to push off the ground and balance to land safely. For some children who use assistive devices, jumping may not be possible right away, if ever. However, focusing on balance work is still vital for promoting functional independence and developing future sports skills. Inclusive adaptations, including the assistance and support of peers, allow all children to access balance building activities only when by encouraging the development of trunk control balance reactions and quick reflexive movements when their center of gravity shifts. Some balancing maneuvers may look quite different being done from a seated position, but the empowering benefits of finding one's equilibrium remain the same: strength, coordination, and steady mastery over your own movements. Trapping and catching activities, which help to develop tracking, coordination, and young athletes. Using the field to trap and travel can help many children as they develop these skills. Trapping and catching can also be practiced at tabletop with children who have difficulty getting onto the floor or who have limited movement or control of their arms and hands. Using beach balls or bubbles, which allow for more time for tracking and reaction time, often leads to early success. For youth with visual impairments, and sometimes for those with sensory processing disorders, using beeper balls or jingling toys provides an auditory signal that allows for a different method for tracking and achieving success. And for any child still developing enough grip strength and control for two-handed catches, using appropriately sized balls for one-handed trapping and catching keeps the playing field seamlessly level. Throwing is a fundamental yet complex skill required for many games and sports. Rolling a ball can be the first step toward throwing and is an excellent way for children to play and have fun, even if they have challenges with balance and mobility. Throwing and catching a ball with a friend or tossing a beanbag or ball toward a target can help children feel a sense of belonging and achievement, and most importantly, have fun. In sports, striking is an important skill that includes hitting or tapping a ball or puck with hands, rackets, sticks, paddles, and clubs. Striking a stationary ball on the floor or on a tee helps build the skills needed to play sports such as baseball, volleyball, tennis, golf, and hockey. Children can play standing, seated on the ground, or in wheelchairs. If needed, beeper balls can be used to assist children with vision difficulties. Kicking is a required skill for many games and sports, and kicking a stationary ball is a great way to develop balance, power, and coordination. Children can then progress to kicking and moving and dribble their feet. Children in wheelchairs may use the front tires to kick, or they may find other ways to kick and move indoors. Playing a kicking game with a beeper ball can aid children with hearing and sensory processing disorders and allows for children, regardless of their abilities or challenges, to play and have fun together. No matter the approach, making those first kicks accessible is all about factoring in each athlete's ability and offering creative adaptations. What I think is really beneficial about the inclusive adaptation flashcards is the fact that It is based on the Young Athletes Activity Guide, which will remain the same. And so people who are familiar with young athletes and the different types of play and activities that are within that guide can simply use the inclusive adaptation flashcards as a way to enhance the program so that all children, regardless of their challenges or abilities, are able to participate. And when we see that people with diverse conditions can play in the same activities and they're developing their motor skills, their perceptual skills, their communication skills, that's what true diversity and inclusion is all about. And that's what Special Olympics stands for.
All right, so I like to show that video because it highlights the 8 skills that young athletes promotes within our program. Excuse me, as well as the diverse range of abilities that young athletes can support. Oh. What's cool about young athletes is that it can be implemented within 3 different places. So it can happen within schools, communities, and at home. So if programs are happening within schools or community, there's an at-home version that caregivers can implement at home to continue building upon the skills used at school or in the community. And then to go into our implementation guide and what that looks like. So like I said earlier, we worked in collaboration with the Native American and Indian and Alaska Native Head Start Collaboration Office. And then we also worked with Nisqually Tribe Head Start, as well as Cook Inlet Native Head Start and Leech Lake Early Head Start and Head Start. And so they were really pivotal in contributing to our Indigenous activity guide. And then this is a video from Nisqually Head Start and how they implemented the activities within their classrooms and added some language pieces to it.
It's at least the council members and it's a head start smallly. For us, it is about strengthening the next generation of leaders and giving them that confidence to go out and succeed.
What we try to instill in them is that self-love and self-respect, self-worth as Indian people. Instill that in them at this age group. It's a foundation that can't be broken.
Special Olympics has been partnering with the National Head Start Association since 2018. And through that relationship, we learned that there is the American Indian and Alaska Native Head Start Collaboration Office led by Michael Richardson. We spoke with him saying that we would like to bring young athletes to tribal Head Starts. He shared with us that while this was a great idea, he was concerned. Number one, a lot of organizations come into tribal communities and make a lot of promises, and not all of those promises are fulfilled. Number two, there are goals that tribal Head Starts are striving to meet, which is to preserve their language, their traditional games, and Indigenous foods. So I came up with the idea, along with Mike, that we could just adapt young athletes to meet those needs. So Young Athletes is a gross motor skills and play program for kids 2 to 7 with and without intellectual disabilities that can be hosted in schools, communities, and homes. And it's all over the world. It is a global program. We discussed how young athletes have skill activities. Well, Indigenous games need all of those skills. So what if we aligned young athletes' skills with tribal games so that the children can participate in those skills and then eventually play the games successfully?
Those games tie close to the tradition and the culture of the community. One would be the salmon catcher game. It's from a story called The Little Silver Salmon.
There is the seal and he will eat you.
That's a game where children learn about how the salmon go upstream. The activity is basically the child pretending like they're the salmon and they're going upstream, and you have nets and you have seals and you have crabs, everything that a salmon would have to dodge. this young athletes program, it speaks to both children with disabilities and without disabilities. That social emotional skill of playing together, of sharing, of waiting our turn, those are the big things that we really benefited from. Working with the Special Olympics program has been incredible. We haven't needed to get our own resources every time I call and let them know, hey, this is what I need. They've been generous.
This Head Start's done a really amazing job with incorporating their language and vocab within the games.
We speak Grade-Alicia. Our language was like, I feel almost lost, and we're just now revitalizing it and bringing it back.
Eagle and Lushutsi? Can you say Yahola? Ooh, I didn't hear you. Yahola, can I see your hand? You're gonna get a Yahola stamp right there.
Spreading that culture back through the generations that are still here that remember some of it to the children who have never learned it before at all.
Makes me to see this because I think it's so important. Having a child walk away being proud of who they are. This is like the most important work that anybody could ever do.
You know, that right there is sustainability. I mean, so many people sacrificed so much here in Nisqually. We're still here, you know, and we're not going anywhere.
So that was just a tidbit into Nisqually Head Start and how they've implemented the program. This is where Mona was going to share her experience with implementing the program and what she saw flourish in her building and school. But we'll have to come back again and share that next time. So to move into the American Indian Alaska Native Implementation Guide. So this is really kind of what the AIAN Head Start and Special Olympics Washington developed to support these skills within the tribal Head Starts. And so with that, Young Athletes supports many of the early learning standards and early learning outcomes for Head Start and Early Head Start. So there's places where it kind of shows the alignment within those standards. And so we do have a specific Nisqually implementation guide, and then we have the AIAN implementation guide, which can be aligned with traditional games within the specific tribe that would like to implement it. So this kind of shows the connection between the traditional game and how it aligns with the young athlete skills. And that video showed a great example of how Nisqually really focused on their language piece and, you know, using those specific words. Like I think eagle was one, salmon's another one that they focused on. And so you can kind of pair those language lessons within your lesson and kind of make it a full day or full week long project. And then this, you know, it talks about what to do on each weeks and how to introduce the skills and those Indigenous games within your classrooms, and how to align that with the young athlete skills. Another piece that the guide really focuses on is hosting young athletes as a large event. And Nisqually Head Start has done this at their family nights and launched the young athletes as a piece of their health component. So launching it to the families that are participating in Head Start and Early Head Start. And Mona was going to share her experience with that. We do also have supporting activities that support the languages, storytelling, and traditional foods within our guide, as well as kind of a book list of books that support Indigenous peoples. And then we also have some school to home resources. So we have newsletters, flashcards, and simple activities that can be recreated at home. And then requirements to start. So you would need to email unifiedschools@soa.org and schedule a time to meet with your region's manager. Developing a leadership team within your school building to support the work, and then registering your school with Special Olympics Washington with our commitment to inclusion form. And then attend a young athletes training, and that can be done virtually or in person. And it's usually about 45 minutes to an hour, and then begin to implement your program. And Special Olympics Washington is here to support you throughout that. And then just a reminder that this is a free program for schools, so there's no cost to implement this at all. And yeah, that's what I have for today. Here is a QR code that links you to our email to get you in contact with Special Olympics staff. And so I will open it up to questions. If anyone has anything.
I think Antonia had gathered some through the chat. So do you want to start with those questions, Antonia? And then Alicia, if there's any questions that people want to, raise their hand and ask after that, we can do it that way. Is that okay?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. So I have a few questions here. One from Kristen Peters. How can we get some of the information sent to us? She shared she's working with something after work with a low-income family daycare or 2 to 3 years old.
Yeah,
So-
great question. Sorry. If you go ahead and scan this, it will connect you to our email. And then we also do have our website. I'll drop that into the chat as well. And that has a lot of the resources that I shared as well. But I would recommend reaching out to or scanning this and getting connected via email so you can get the resources tailored to what you need.
Yeah, can you share the email in the
Yeah.
chat? Okay, thank you. Also I have another question from Miss Cassie Anderson. Is the guide available for anyone?
Yes, the guide is available for everyone. It is on our website. And so anyone can access that. If you're going to be using like our name, and this is where it gets kind of tricky. We do want you to go through the training with us, but anyone can access the guide.
Thank you. And I have another from Julie Donaldson. Are Lummi, Quinault, and Macaw, are they aware of this program?
Are they up north? Those,
Peninsula.
okay. I'm not sure if they are. Feel free to pass along our information, the Unified Schools email. If you know anyone involved in those communities, that would be great.
We have another question. How long is the training?
Yeah, great. The training can be done virtual or in person, and it's about 45 minutes to an hour on how to implement the curriculum.
Okay, I think that's all the questions that I gathered from the chat. I don't know if anyone else has any questions.
Oh, I'm sending directly to Angela. I'm so sorry, guys. I've been putting it in. Everyone. Okay. Sorry, everyone.
I had one question about adaptation to specific tribes and languages. You had shown resources. It looked like were specific to Nisqually. Is that accurate?
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning. What was you saw
I was
resources?
just wondering about adaptation for different tribes and different languages, if that's available, and that training like touches on that component too, how to make it tailored to each tribe.
Yeah, great question. So within the guide, it will give you some examples of what to use for specific language pieces that you can use, but then that would really be up to the specific program to choose what words they'd like to, or what words they'd like to highlight within that activity. Like the salmon catcher game, they chose, salmon, and seal and crab, I think were the other ones that they choose. So it's really, up to the tribe to what's important to them and what that specific activity looks like on what those specific words would be.
Does anybody else have any questions? Now's the time. Oh, yes, Keely.
Hi there, can you hear me okay? All
Yes.
right, fabulous. So I work in Vancouver, Washington. I'm an outreach librarian, and I've been working very closely with a lot of our Indigenous families and tribes along the Columbia there. And what ends up happening is I work with a lot of families that are in Portland or Oregon. And you may not have the answer for this, but is there something similar to this program that I might be able to help share this along with maybe something that would be applicable for Oregon or Portland in that area?
Yeah, great question. So Oregon would have the Unified Champion Schools program as well, and I would just Google that. So they have their own kind of franchise of it. And then the AIAN implementation guide that can be used in any state for any tribe. So that's kind of broad.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Looks like we have another question at the beginning. You had mentioned about a potential job. Would you post the job opening at the end of the talk?
Yeah, I don't have any information on that. Today is my last day at the job at Special Olympics, so I don't know what their plan is, but you can continue to go to our website to see if there's any postings. Well, thank you guys so much. And thank you for being flexible as I navigated today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, one more question. Could you share the website in the chat? Thank you.
Sorry, guys. And one more time, the email to reach out to with any questions is unifiedschools@soa.org.
Well, thank you so much, Alicia, for your time today and presenting on this very cool program that you guys have done and the work you've done with our Nisqually tribe. And good luck on your new journey and adventure wherever that leads you. We do appreciate you taking your time out of today to be here to present and just raise our hands to you and the work that you've done and the work that you'll continue doing. So thank you so much. For the rest of our participants, we are going to break 12 minutes early for lunch. So there you go. You got 1 hour and 12 minutes now for lunch. We'll rejoin or reconvene at 1 o'clock in the breakout session. So just as a reminder, I'll just go over that really quick with you all. At 1 o'clock, we have breakout session A, which is the Safe Immersion ECAP preschool. Training fluent teachers is the key, presented by Bria Desatel and Christopher Parkin. And that's going to be session A. So that link will drop again in our chat, just so we're not going to ever lose it. Session B, which will be this room right here that we're just finishing up in, is going to be the MMIWP, the alarming connection of domestic violence and human trafficking, which will be presented by Carolyn DeFord and Jerry Muma. Again, back in this room at 1 p.m. So we will break until then. Have an excellent lunch.
Are we able to stay logged into these Zoom links, or do we have to exit for lunch?
No, you can. No, you can stay logged in. I think we might have a break slide that we'll just put up, but yeah, this will be open.
Okay, perfect. Just because I'm coming back here anyway.
Great, thank you for the question. And then Angela, we can stop the recording.